Welcome to the APD video walkthrough for reporting reactive strategies using APD iConnect. This video was created for APD providers who implement reactive strategies. Any provider who uses reactive strategies is required to complete the reactive strategies form in APD iConnect. This workflow will take place within your consumer's record in APD iConnect. The Behavior Services Training Manual will be located in the Behavior Services Provider library under the heading entitled Manuals. Please take a moment to retrieve that now at this video was created to accompany that workflow. Today's example will of the service provider's steps within the reactive strategies workflow. By the end of this video, you will know how to identify where to locate the manuals that accompany this workflow. Understand how to initiate a reactive strategies form in APD iConnect and follow up with communications in APD iConnect. The materials that you will use to follow the behavior services workflows can be located on the APD website. The web address is www.apd.myflorida.com. On the left are the important links that you should look through. Locate the provider library link. This site contains all resources for providers, including the Behavior Service Provider Library. To follow the workflow outlined in this Behavioral Services Training Guide, you will need to know your role as the service provider in the process of reporting reactive strategies and become familiar with the Regional Senior Behavior Analyst or Designee, Clinical Workstream Worker, in your regions. Any provider who uses reactive strategies is required to complete the reactive strategies form in APD iConnect. Reporting the use of reactive strategies includes the following steps. The behavioral provider uses one or more reactive strategies during a single event. The behavioral provider completes the reactive strategies form in APD iConnect. The Regional Senior Behavior Analyst or Designee runs a report to identify events that require follow-up. The next slide includes a video demonstration of the reactive strategy form using APD iConnect.
As we sign in as the service provider or service provider worker role, and we navigate to our consumer's record, and much like the other forms, we click on the Forms tab and we click File, Add a Form. From the drop-down menu, we select Reactive Strategies. Review will be as needed. Review date defaults to today. APD, my name, leave it in draft status, program provider, my organization, and then we fill out the remainder of the form.
Caroline, can you, for this section, because we're going to be training different groups, do you want to identify which providers would do this?
Okay. Reactive strategies could be any provider who has to implement a reactive strategy. So that could be your behavior analyst, your behavior assistant provider. It could be group home staff. All right. So we fill out the form. We're going to indicate what county it occurred. County. Then we're going to indicate who the provider is by clicking on the ellipsis. So once we pull our provider record, we can indicate the site. If there is a facility, or not. Indicate if there's an emergency procedure curriculum. The label of the behavior. So for this particular example that I provided was self-injurious behavior. We were trying to prevent them from harming themselves. And then you describe behavior. Did the individual die? No. Is there serious injury to the individual? Yes or no, just to indicate such. Was there serious injury to staff? We caught it on time. Does the individual have an LRC approved BASP? Yes, they do. Was this part of that LRC approved behavior intervention? Yes. Were there specific psychotherapeutic medications prescribed? We'll say no for today. Was the medication changed in the last 30 days? Yes or no? If you mess up and pick the wrong one like I did, you have to leave that field and come back to it. And was this impacted by trauma? We're just going to say no. Today's example. Did we use a chemical restraint? No. Were they Baker acted? No. I don't know what that means, so I'm going to hit no. Were emergency services involved? No. We'll just say yes, because that was the example that I used. Maybe it was used for 2 minutes. Was there a mechanical restraint? No. Seclusion? No. Medication administration? Calm them down? No. Medical protective equipment? No. Behavior protective equipment? No. And then any additional comments will indicate here. We leave the bottom alone. So once we have responded to all the questions on the form, we save the form in complete status.
Reactive Strategies Event Review and Follow-up. The Reactive Strategies Event Review and Follow-up process occurs after you submit that initial reactive strategy. A key person in the reactive strategy review process is the Regional Senior Behavior Analyst or designee, the APD representative, who will communicate with you if additional follow-up is necessary. This is why it is so crucial that you as the service providers become familiar with who that individual is. First, the Regional Senior Behavior Analyst or designee runs the Provider Reactive Strategies report to identify events that require follow-up. If corrections and follow-up are not needed, the process ends and the Reactive Strategies form is updated appropriately. If corrections or follow-up are needed, the Regional Senior Behavior Analyst or designee will communicate with you using a note in APD icon next. What happens when corrections are needed? When corrections are needed, the Regional Senior Behavior Analyst will reverse the status of the reactive strategy form and fill out their follow-up fields. The Regional Senior Behavior Analyst communicates with you via a note that correction is needed. You will monitor the Notes pane on My Dashboard for a note type of reactive strategies and subtype of required follow-up. You will update the Reactive Strategies form with the necessary corrections. You will respond to the note. The Regional Senior Behavior Analyst or designee will review the Provider Reactive Strategies report and determine if additional follow-up is needed. Follow-up information may be obtained through meetings and notes with the provider. As mentioned previously, there are 3 types of follow-up activities. Follow-up during an LRC meeting. Follow-up needs during a scheduled meeting. Follow-up through note communications. You will need to keep a lookout on the My Dashboard for any communications from the regional office. If the follow-up can be obtained during the LRC meeting, the Regional Senior Behavior Analyst or designee will document on the LRC case review and approval form during the meeting. No additional note is needed, and the Reactive Strategies form can be completed. After the follow-up section of the Reactive Strategies form is completed from the previous section, they will then change the status of the form to complete. Once the form is saved, the process is complete. If the follow-up can be obtained through a scheduled meeting with you, the Regional Senior Behavior Analyst or designee will add a note to schedule the meeting with you. You will monitor the Notes pane on My Dashboard for a note type of Reactive Strategies, subtype of required follow-up and description of meeting requested. You will then meet with the Regional Senior Behavior Analyst to provide additional information. Depending on the meeting's outcome, you may also need to update the Reactive Strategies form. If necessary, go to the Consumers Forms tab, select the Reactive Strategies form in pending status, update the fields as required, and leave the form in pending status. From the File menu, select Save and Close Forms. If follow-up can be gathered from a note, the Regional Senior Behavior Analyst will communicate with you via a note in APD Connect. You will monitor the Notes pane on My Dashboard for a note type of Reactive Strategies and subtype of required follow-up. You will then review the Reactive Strategies note and provide the answers about the event in the same note. On the Note Details page, update the following fields. Note: provide answers to the inquiries placed and additional information about the event. Click Append text to note. Status: set it to complete. Recipient: Regional Senior Behavior Analyst or designee. Next, from the File menu, select Save and Close Notes. The page will refresh, and you will be returned to the Reactive Strategies form. Leave the form in pending status, and from the File menu, select Save and Close Forms. The region will update the Reactive Strategies form. The APD agency Senior Behavior Analyst may identify corrections or follow-up needs that were not completed by the Regional Senior Behavior Analyst. The APD agency Senior Behavior Analyst will notify the region to work with the provider to complete the corrections and/or follow-up. The State Office Staff Reactive Strategies Event Follow-up and CMS reporting process includes the following steps. The APD agency Senior Behavior Analyst runs the Provider Reactive Strategies report to identify events that require follow-up that were not completed by the region. This same report provides data to generate statistics and graphs for the quarterly CMS report. Communicate with the Regional Senior Behavior Analyst or designee via a note if a correction is needed. The Regional Senior Behavior Analyst will work with you to make the corrections on the Reactive Strategies form. The most important thing to remember is to check APD Connect every day to ensure that you don't miss any communications from the region or what may trickle down from State Office. It is also important is to mark your notes as read once you have opened and reviewed them. This will ensure that your My Dashboard Notes pane is organized. Congratulations, you have completed this training module. Thank you for your participation and good luck.